Greg Jennings is a Fox Sports NFL analyst. He also calls Minneapolis home. He is joining us via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. Greg, I want to start with a story I heard in fact, I heard this, I think Saturday or Sunday, that your wife owns a boutique in Minneapolis. And, I saw the footage like everybody else. You stepped in, you sent your wife home, and you said, I'm going to watch the shop. And if you could take us from that point forward, Greg, what transpired?
Yeah, so I sent my wife home. I'm sitting in the shop to the wee hours of the morning just to be a deterrent. Had a couple of my buddies, not security, just my friends come down with me that wanted to stand and sit in the shop with me to be a deterrent. And what went on and what was transpiring as my wife and I were making the transition, I mean, we saw a car backed into another boutique, a store across the way, and just emptying it out. All acts very unfortunate, obviously stemming from what the cause was, and that was the wrongful act of a law enforcement officer on George Floyd and his life being taken. And that's the story. That's the big picture. That's what's awakening everything and igniting all of these actions. However, those who are acting emotionally and their ties and relations and how they decide to respond is whatever it is that they want. Do I agree with all of it? No. Am I in alignment with all of it? No, but I understand it all. And I just decided to go down and to not allow my wife's store to be a part of what could have potentially been. And unfortunately, there were stores around her that were impacted in ways like that.
Greg, I'm not sure if I've talked to you about this, but I've talked to a lot of African-American athletes in my life and coaches. And, I'm having coffee or, I would go out or whatever. And I ask them, I say, about life situations that I don't deal with. And I've said this, and I said this earlier today, and I got kind of emotional about it. I said, in America, we don't like bullying. We don't. We open up our checkbooks. We open up our heart. We do not like to see people bullied. Anybody. And black people in America are saying increasingly, we're being bullied. We're not being treated fair by law enforcement. And so I'm going to ask a personal question. And in your life, have you dealt with situations with law enforcement anytime being pulled over when you felt you were unfairly viewed, targeted, or treated?
Absolutely. On a handful of occasions. With just it being myself, with it being myself and my brother alongside of me, with it being my family in the car, and I'm driving an RV. There's been several instances that I can relate and recall. And I'll give you this, Colin. This is the problem, and this is what happens when you do get pulled over. You go through this roller coaster of emotions. Anxiety hits you. Your heart palpitations are just literally outside of your chest. But as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a black man, your pride then wants to take over and mask all of that. And so you don't want the officer walking up to you feeling as though he has put fear in you. When the reality of it is that's what happens. And you don't want to show that. So a lot of people react and respond in different ways. Some feel like, you know what, I'm not going to just let you talk to me or do anything that you think you're going to do or you've come here to potentially do. Others have responses of hands on the wheel. Yes, sir. Whatever you want, I'm going to comply and do. And it shouldn't be that way. I should be able to have a conversation with someone who is in a uniform that has been sworn to oath to protect me and to keep me from harm instead of inflicting harm on me. And as a black man, when we get pulled over and when we see situations like what happened with George Floyd and the many others, Trayvon Martin's, and all of these individuals that have been victims to this type of act of law enforcement, something has to be done. And it's becoming too much of a perpetual thing, which is why we see the reactions of so many in such a variety of ways of display. And it will continue to be like that until voices like yourself, voices like mine, unite and continue to push and say things that need to be said, have uncomfortable conversations to eliminate and to tear down the injustices that are taking place in our society and within our communities.
So you protested this weekend with your wife and 2 daughters. And I was interesting. And again, I am so incapable of, I'm asking questions today. I have very few strong statements. I know my voice does not resonate as yours does, or Chris Broussard's does, or Coach Tom Herman, frankly, came on an hour ago and was magnificent. But I had conversations with my daughter this weekend, and we were sickened by the video, and we talked about perspective. So when you're walking with your wife and your daughters, what are your, again, this is a personal question, but I think it's fitting here. Your daughters, what are they seeing? What are they asking Dad? What do you feel as you're walking your daughters?
To be honest, a lot of emotion, Colin. I told my daughters after we were down at the rally, and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, man.
I said something to my daughters. I said, I want to say something to you, but I don't want you to become afraid. And I told my daughters, I said, the way your dad is viewed is as a threat. I said, honeys, if you just pay attention to how people walk by and perceive your father and the looks that they give you, it's almost a look of fear. And I am the furthest from acting in a harmful way to anyone. You know me. And it hurts. And for us to be seen, and for myself to be seen, and many other black men, and just black people as a whole, to be seen as a threat because of what we look like, because of our skin, I felt like I had to tell my children that real reality. And we've talked about racism. We've talked about our skin color. We've talked about being proud about it. But there are some times that there are words that I can't teach them. And there are experiences that can only teach you and to have things truly resonate. And I will sit here right now and tell you, because of what has transpired, and God knows I wish it would have never happened. I wish all of the acts would have never happened. All of these things that we're discussing that surface every time one of our own falls victim to police brutality or whatever the case may be. It recalls and it causes us to remind and reflect on each and every incident that has happened. And so for my daughters, I want them to understand that just because it happened then doesn't mean it has to happen to you. There is a change that you can make. There's a decision that you can make. And there's a stance that we will always take. Regardless if it continues to happen, regardless if it stops, we will always persevere. That's who we are as a people. That's who we are as a family. And that's who I'm raising my kids and my daughters to be as young women.
When I watch and I'm just speaking from a Los Angeles perspective because I watch local, Los Angeles news, I saw 99% peaceful protesting and diverse crowds, young, old, white, black, Latino, all through Los Angeles, overwhelmingly peaceful. And then there's troublemakers who I thought were a separate group. They didn't feel like the protesters. They were just a separate group. I said earlier, I don't want people to get twisted. That's what I saw. Protesters, pain, loud, hurt. And then separately, younger people that were there and part of chaos. Did you at any point this weekend during the march feel optimism or hope that it was resonating beyond you and your family and the people in your community? Did it ever feel hopeful to you this weekend?
So for us at the rally, the one thing that I walked away feeling like was, and I told this to my daughters, is there's power in words. There were some people who said things, who spoke at the rally, that it really, I believe, penetrated every individual that was there. For whatever reasons that they decided to come out and support, the words of many have great impact and lasting impressions. And for me to have a platform and to not use it, to have a voice and to not speak, I could not do that. Now, it may take someone time to figure out the words to share and what they want, but just collectively use our words, this is the tool that we have. What I'm speaking with right now is the only tool that I have that can project light or darkness. It can build or it can tear down. And regardless of which one I express, someone's going to either jump on board and someone's going to have to fix it. If I decide to use my voice to tear down, someone's going to have to then come back behind me and use their voice to build up. And that's what I saw. I saw a common collective voice in a message that, yes, this is wrong, but there has to be something, and there is something that we can do as a people that can potentially change this. And that is get up and vote. That is fill out our census. That is all the things that we as Black people, yes, Black, tend to not overlook and think that my vote or my assistance in this signing this petition, it won't matter. It does matter. Every voice matters, because who I can reach. And who will lend an ear to my voice because they look at me and they say, I can relate to him, I can connect with them. But who then you can reach, Colin, I can't reach. But they will listen to the same message that you will provide them, that we're collectively sharing, but they share a likeness that I can never share with them. But we can share the same voice and the same message and impact the masses that way. So that's what I heard. That's what's hopeful. That's what's promising.
Yeah, and that's why it's important for people who don't face 24/7, 365 days a year injustice have to speak, myself included. You were great, Greg. I appreciate you sharing personal stories and anecdotes with our audience, and I wish you and your family the best. You know what I think of you, and you're terrific, and I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Appreciate the time, Colin.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.